On reconciliation, when Republican congressmen went home after voting for their big, beautiful bill, they got a lot of flack from people back home because the more Americans look at this big, quote, beautiful bill, the more they realize it's an ugly mess. By now, we've heard from so many Republicans in the House saying they didn't like this provision, they didn't like that portion of the bill. Some say it cuts Medicaid too deep. Some say it adds too much to the debt. Some say they didn't even get to read the bill. And particularly the energy provisions, the clean energy provisions, very popular, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs, reducing our dependence on China, was done in the dark of night at the last minute. So it virtually kills the clean energy tax credits that have been so popular in this country. The bottom line is this, though. A congressman's core power is the power to vote. That's what the Constitution gave them. And House Republicans who say they don't like the bill should exercise that power today. They have a unique opportunity to make the very changes they've been talking about for weeks. Because of technical mistakes that we Democrats pointed out, the Republicans had to take their bill back and not send it over here until they make those technical corrections. But if even a handful of Republican congressmen who say they don't like this provision or that provision vote no until those other provisions, those much more serious provisions, are changed, they could get it done. They could stop the vicious cuts to Medicaid. They could stop the closures of rural hospitals. They could restore the clean energy tax credits and save jobs in their own district. Remember, at least 70% of those clean energy projects are in red states. Whatever policy they told the people back home they didn't like, they can now change it. It's a golden opportunity. If House Republicans mean what they say, those who say they don't like the bill, this part of it or that part of it, if they truly want to change the bill, now this is their chance. This is the golden key, Republicans in the House. You have a chance, a real chance to change the bill. It's in your hands. But don't go home and tell your constituents, oh, you're really against this provision, if you don't act on it. The vote will show whether House Republicans are worried about the cuts to SNAP, to Medicaid, to Medicare, to clean energy jobs, like they claim, or if it was just empty talk. House Republicans, vote no, and you can change the bill for the better. But if you go along and vote yes, after all that complaining, you'll show people back home that when push comes to shove, you'll cave to Donald Trump. On climate, this week, Republicans continued their tortured efforts to ram Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill through the Senate. Now, some Senate Republicans are starting to balk at the fact that their bill is a clean job killer. It virtually ends all of the tax credits that we gave to wind, solar, and other clean energy. If Senate Republicans have any desire to lower energy costs, avoid shipping energy jobs overseas, they should hit the eject button on this big, beautiful bill and start over. Experts from across the political spectrum are starting to agree that Donald Trump's bill is far too radical and deeply flawed, and to boot, it was passed in the dark of night, where even many Republicans didn't know what's in it, and a few even admitted that publicly. On jobs, their bill would kill over 800,000 good-paying clean energy jobs by 2030 alone. That would be a disaster for the economy, just as clean energy is taking off. These jobs will last for generations. Clean energy tax credits made them possible, and 85% of the investment generated by these credits have gone to red states. Did you hear that, Republican colleagues? If Republicans proceed with the bill, they'll put Americans out of work in their own states. And the American people, and these workers in particular, are starting to see it. Just last week, a battery plant in South Carolina paused a $1 billion project because of policy uncertainty. In other words, because of Republican sabotage. And the closure in South Carolina is a canary in the coal mine if there ever was one. If Donald Trump's bill passes, more jobs disappear. And talk about costs. It's going to add $32 billion on household energy costs. And today we got the news that Donald Trump's bill is worse than we thought. Americans will now pay up to $170 billion, not $32 billion more on energy. Let me say that again, $170 billion more for the American consumer to pay on electric bills, for small business to pay on electric bills. Republicans, because they just want to so embrace the radical anti-clean energy fossil fuels group, that they'll raise Americans' costs by a dramatic amount. They also make us dependent on China. China's gaining in solar energy. If we cut it off, China will dominate the world, and our children and grandchildren will be at China's behest. It'll push about $80 billion in solar and battery manufacturing jobs overseas. More jobs in Chengdu, fewer in Cleveland and Charleston. We all know that AI and crypto are going to cause American energy demand to spike in the coming years. Why the heck would you cut off one of the sources? There are many who say all of the above, okay. But why cut off one part of that all of the above? Because the radicals, not the mainstream, but the radicals in the fossil fuel industry are almost religious in their hatred of clean energy because they know it's the future and will eventually displace them. On the IRS nomination, and that's why this week I have been working 24/7 with so many different people, whether it's workers or companies or governors, to spread the word how bad this is and ask all of America, if you don't like these provisions, if you think it'll lose your job, if you think it'll raise your costs, call your Republican senator and tell him to change it. Most of the Republicans didn't like it to begin with, but it was rushed through in the dark of night.